Thank you so much for everybody joining. This is our fourth event in the Go Far Week launch. So welcome. And then this one is open to everyone across the state of Louisiana for people who cannot make it from different parishes. So I am so excited to be able to welcome you. My name is Rochelle Wilcox. I am the Executive Director of Wilcox Academy of Early Learning. I am also the co-founder of For Providers by Providers, and I am the co-chair of Geaux Far Louisiana. I am happy to co-chair Geaux Far Louisiana with Dr. Libby Saunier.
Hi, and I'm Latonya. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. And as Rochelle said, I'm also the co-chair with her for Geaux Far Louisiana.
We also have with us Celeste. Celeste, go ahead. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm the real Celeste Carter. Many of you here have a link with my name on it, but I'm Celeste Carter. I'm the project manager with Geaux Far Louisiana.
So again, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you guys are asking for next slide.
So again, this is Geaux Far Louisiana statewide virtual meeting for Geaux Far Louisiana Week. And we are excited to have you guys. The one thing I also want to say is we understand that this is Tuesday, 6 p.m. at night, and we appreciate you taking time out to be with us. So Geaux Far Louisiana is Geaux Far Louisiana, we believe we can create an equitable, unified child and friendly centered early childhood system that focuses on racial equity, that ensures families have access to seamless, high quality early childhood development, health, and education services. I'm so sorry. The braces are getting in the way of me speaking tonight, but I appreciate you being patient with me. But the fact of the matter is, the long and short of this, any system that touches a child prenatal to 5, we want to make sure that we have the people that are on the ground, the people that are most impacted. We want to make sure that any system that touches that, they have influence, they have advocate, they have a voice, they have a vote around those systems. Next slide. So we have a little a video that tells you about, this was our first retreat, and this kind of gives you the beginning, the inception, the development of what Geaux Far Louisiana really is.
Celeste, there's no audio.
So, how do you guys feel?
Oh gosh, feels like magic.
Yeah.
Really does. We were in the middle of Woodworth, Louisiana, in the central part of the state, to allow people to get here to build community. And I believe we built community while we were here.
Absolutely. A lot of great work was done. Just people, as Libby said, came from all over. Just to have a conversation and start planning and building.
Dreaming.
You know, our theme has been, dreaming big for little people, right? And there is a lot of big dreams that has happened, and inspiration and people building relationships that you would not think would happen between agency people and just moms and dads. That is where the work begins. That is where the work is going to take off and go far.
I think first you have to know that Rochelle and I have been working together for over a decade.
Yep.
And me in different positions, and Rochelle still being the rock star she always has been, running early learning centers. Where it came from is that we were really fortunate at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children to garner 3 large grants. And what we decided to do was not treat those grants in silos. And when I went to Rochelle and I was like, look, we have this opportunity for this one grant we call Child Care Next. I said, but you know, we're on the same page. We know that if we don't have healthy babies and mamas, we're not going to be able to educate the way we want to as children get older. I said, then as we're thinking about this, what if we unified all the work and like whatever system's touching little people, we need to figure out where the breakdowns are and be able to dream. And that's really where it started.
Absolutely. When we have these conversations about how we're going to streamline and bridge the gaps and make sure that any system that touches a child is unified and accessible and equitable, people start saying, you know, you get a lot of people say, oh, I want to be a part of that. Oh, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. And we say, yeah, you know, yes to some and no to others. Because, and it was intentional in the way that we did it, is because there are a lot of people that are sitting in a lot of spaces that have been sitting in a lot of spaces for years, and we're not where we need to be. So what systems internally do we have to change so that way we can set precedents? So when we're creating this new work, we can say, look what we did. Who are the stakeholders? Who's on the steering committee? So we can start the framework. So when for the next time or the next board or policymakers to say, you know what? It worked with those parents. It worked with those providers. They had so much value, so much input that we're going to change the way our bylaws look. We're going to change the way our how we rule around policy to include the people that's on the ground, the people that is going to be impacted the most.
And we're doing this differently. If we think about any time there's been any systems reform in our state, you get agency people together and you get a few stakeholders, and then you might get some families in token, and you might get some providers in token. But what we said is, no, we need to build power within the community that we want to build so that they can challenge the Libby's of the world. They can challenge the Rochelles. They can challenge the agency people. And what that means for people like me is that I have to sit back. It slows me down, because at the end of the day, if we really want successful policies and we do want to go far here, I don't need to be the lead. Rochelle doesn't have to be the lead. We're going to build leaders and power and coalition so that it'll be a movement. It is going to be a revolution.
Yeah.
And as somebody said earlier, this is bigger than a rose. And I do believe it's bigger than a rose. And this is generational, multi-generational, and powerful. And so I walk away with like a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Sister's tired.
Yeah.
Like, this is the work that we've been dreaming of doing for years that we just never had the opportunity to do the way we want to do it.
Yep. And this is what we want to be tired about.
Yeah.
You know, this is good tired. You know, this is good trouble. This is, you know, the framework, the steps, the movement that we're going to make sure that there's implementation about. You know, there's a lot of people that start a lot of great conversations, and that's where it ends. You can look at these 2 women right here and know that it is not ending here. Our plan is to go far for our children and families of Louisiana.
And we can say that the children are well.
The children are well.
I hope you enjoyed getting a little of the flair of Geaux Far at its inception. It's really a special community that we have built, and looking forward to really gaining more friends along the way. How we really started is you have to understand the steering committee. And so it's approximately 36 people. We set out a goal to have at the very least 55% of the steering committee being at any point always having 55% parents, families, providers. And as you can see, we hit it out the park when you look at our parents. Of 65% of our steering committee members are parents, 23 are providers, 8% are business owners, leaders, and 4% are elected officials or systems leaders. And so, because we really wanted to have a paradigm shift. We wanted to say, we're going to do this differently. And by doing it differently was centering the voices of families and providers. In our first year in, gosh, 2022, which is hard to think about now, we convened the steering committee 13 in 9 full group meetings that represent 13 different parishes across the state with 2 retreats. So we had 2 retreats our first year and 8 working meetings. And that becomes important when we look at the next slide, because we could think about the best ideas ourselves, but it's always best to go into community. The next slide. It'll get here when it gets here. And so we worked with our friends at the Power Coalition, who are really amazing partners. And they went out into communities and engaged with the community to make sure that we were listening. And so we had 13 listening sessions across Louisiana during the spring of 2022. And in those listening sessions, we had over 306 attendees. And so we took everything that we learned in those listening sessions, which are the purple that you'll see there. We took all that back into our steering committee. And what we heard loud and clear is that we really needed to make sure, again, that we had a comprehensive, equitable system that talked to itself instead of just operating in silos. And so we took all the information that we heard from the listening sessions and started to work on a plan. And as we were working on that plan, what came out in the listening sessions, because originally we thought we had like 4 areas of work. And in the listening sessions, what really came out is that there were really 5 areas of work that we'll go through with you tonight. But, just listening to people one time is never going to do the right thing. So we worked on a draft kind of plan. We went back into community with these ground truthing sessions in July and August of 2022. And we went back because we wanted to make sure that we were listening and that we heard them right. And community always knows what community needs. And the community said, y'all got this right, and y'all need to tweak that. So we went back into working on a plan. And really cool, because with the ground truthing sessions, we had 264 attendees and we had 510 online survey participants. So like really making sure that that we were listening along the way. Next slide. And so all those listening sessions, all those ground truthing sessions, all those work group meetings that we have, where we got to is the Geaux Far Louisiana strategic plan. And we're going to walk through the 5 areas of work with you all tonight. And Rochelle and I will ping pong back and forth so that you just don't hear my voice the whole time. But here are the goal areas. And so you'll see the first area is a family and provider driven system. And we'll dig into that. And that's really about families and providers having decision-making abilities in places of importance and in places of power, making sure that we have a net that works. Many of us have networks through our jobs, but how many of us really have a net that works with communities and within our community that can help lift us up if we fall down or we need some help? And then making sure that young children and their mamas and daddies and their families really have a healthy start from the very beginning. Again, if we don't have healthy mamas, we don't have healthy babies. And if we don't have healthy babies, we can't educate them. And then ensuring that we have childcare for everyone, everywhere throughout the state. That is self-explanatory in itself, but also have a well-funded early care and education system. And then making sure that families have access to family-friendly workplaces so that they know they can go to work and do what they need to do, but they can also be parents and caregivers and give of themselves in both places. Rochelle?
Next. So a family and provider driven system. So this is the first pillar. So the goal is to have any decision-making body, whether it's an advisory board, legislative, another board, a council, a coalition, whatever, that there is power or there's a voice, a voting voice from a parent or provider. And when we're talking about a parent or a provider, we are speaking of someone, not just early care and education. We're talking about whether it is a doula, a mental health specialist, a a doctor, a dentist, a teacher, someone that is impacting or touching a little person in a way that is not that is not usually at the decision-making table. So what we usually say, or what we say, is if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And we want to make sure that the people who are making the decisions are the people that are mostly people are impacted by those decisions that are being made. So effective government and family provider partnerships and early childhood leadership. So there are a lot of policies and decisions that are being made by people who are who don't have children, or who had children many years ago, or who do not have the ability to have or bear children. So we want to make sure that there is a leadership that represents the body of the experience of the people who have had or are directly impacted by those children. Next slide. Childcare for everyone, everywhere. So more affordable, responsive childcare options, high quality early learning programs, competitively compensated early care and education workforce. So the fact is that another thing to note about Geaux Far Louisiana is that this is not just for Jefferson Parish or Sabine Parish or Rapides Parish or Orleans Parish or just the Delta or Northeast. This is for the state of Louisiana. So we want to make sure when we're talking about more affordable and responsive childcare options, the fact is that we want to make sure that parents have choice. So whether they want to do family childcare or whether they want to do brick and mortar childcare, we want them to be able to have options, and options that is not 45. There's one childcare that's within 45 miles of a community that is only open from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's not responsive. That's not a responsive childcare option. We want to make sure that the community needs are assessed, and then that way we can give the community what they need. High quality early learning programs. Whatever that program might need, whether it is curriculum, whether it's qualified teachers, whatever that program might need, we want to be able to support those options. We cannot open classrooms. We cannot support early care and education if we cannot compensate teachers. So we want to make sure that we are competitively compensated teachers. In Orleans Parish, we were able to pass a millage in 2022 that garnered $21 million per year for each year for the next 20 years. That should be the blueprint. How can we replicate that in other parishes across the state of Louisiana? How can we support that? And then with that being said, the providers were at the forefront of pushing that policy, of pushing that ballot measure. In addition to that, supporting other providers and other parents to say, you know what? We need to make sure that there's other municipalities, local, state, and at the federal level to make sure that there is child care for everybody everywhere. A net that works. So to Libby's point earlier, everybody has a network. Everybody has something that they might, whether you just talk to one friend and you talk to another friend and you talk to another friend, and you might find out what that friend's resources are, and that friends find out but we want to make sure that you have informed and supported families. If there's a resource out there and you don't know about it, it is not truly a resource. And most likely, if you don't know about that resource or that resource is going underutilized, that one resource that was out there will go away. And we do not want that. We want to make sure that we can form a connective tissue around all of our children and families and birthing parents. So we want to make sure, we want to make sure that our parents are informed, and not just informed about what's happening in a neighboring parish, but what's happening right in your parish. What is culturally sensitive to you? What is not just culturally sensitive, but if you speak another language, what is going to support you in your home language and your child? So we want to make sure that it's informed, supported, culturally sensitive, accessible, and coordinated. So that way you can call, you might be able to call one phone number or one line or go to one place and get all of the resources that you may need that will support that your specific need. Next slide. A healthy start. So Libby says this all the time, and it's dear to my heart. If we don't have healthy mamas, we don't have healthy babies. And if we don't have healthy babies, we can't educate them. So we want to make sure that they have a healthy start. So universal health care access and availability. Support parents through the early years and improve quality of healthcare and providers. So the fact of the matter is, we want to make sure that prior to or in the prenatal space, that you're getting what you need, that you're getting that support prenatal to postpartum, that if there is a nurse that needs to come out to you, that you can have that support. If you want a midwife or if you want a doula, that there is opportunities out there for you and that will provide that information to you. Because just like it's parent choice to access what type of early care and education you want for your little person, it should also be parent choice to decide how you want to birth your little person or how you want to be cared for your little person. So we want to make sure that you have that from beginning to those early years, and there's support in every way that you need. Next slide. Family-friendly workplaces, and I say this all the time. So infant and toddler feeding support and workplace support. So I have 3 boys. All of them, most of them are, 2 of them are adults. One is in high school, but I breastfed all of them. We get real personal, but I breastfed all of them. And when the older ones were being breastfed, I had to go into the bathroom stall to pump. And I was the only one pumping. There were other people doing other things in the bathroom stall. And that was not where I wanted to be, to providing what we call liquid gold, right? So we want to be able to provide spaces or support the workforce, and most work areas want to be able to provide space for their employees. They want to do that. So we want to be able to support them and give them the information or the know-how, or realize maybe there might be some legislation around that or something like that, that we can support them, or tax rate or incentive. I'm just throwing that stuff out there. So, but we want to be able to support people in there. Workplace support. So we want to be able to provide family leave. So after a birth of a child, that is the most significant time for bonding, for brain development, for all of those things. And we want to be able to support parents and families and businesses to doing that for those parents. What it's maternal leave or paternal leave. We want to be able to do that. So just and whether it also might look like workforce supports in workplaces supporting their employees in a stipend for childcare or whatever that might look like. We want to be able, that is what's called family-friendly workplaces. And what we also know is that when you provide these type of supports to your employees, they stay longer, they feel valued. You reap those, the money that you're putting out, you reap those with staff retention.
Here, I'll grab over here
Right.
for you to take a rest. So the next part we want to talk to you about are our Go Far implementation partners, because we know not one organization or one human can carry this work forward. And so on the next slide, you see those 5 goal areas again. And you see the implementation partners, which are different organizations that have said, we'll help work with steering committee and community to help drive policy. And so you see for a family and provider driven system, we have 4 providers by providers, the Louisiana Policy Institute, as well as the Power Coalition. And then the names under here are steering committee liaisons. And so ensuring that we always center these voices of families and providers, we have to ensure that they're helping us hold people accountable. And so that these liaisons are the liaison between the steering committee and the implementation partner to really help stay the course, put the guardrails up of what we know to be true based on listening to the community and listening to the people that are most impacted by the work. And so you'll see our steering committee members' names under here, Christy Ross and Constance Causey for a family and provider driven system. Under a net that works, implementation partners here again, you'll see 4 providers by providers, as well as IWES and Louisiana Partnership for Children and Families. And you'll see our steering committee liaisons here are Stephanie McDuffie and Angelia Turner, as well as Sharuba Chavez. And for a healthy start, implementation partners are our friends at the Amandala Group, along with IWES, Louisiana Partnership for Children and Families, and the Louisiana Public Health Institute. And so you'll see, like, as we go through all this, you'll see like they're different partners for different things because they have different expertise, and we wanted to make sure that we're able to pull in, all the talents that we have in the state. And you'll see that our liaisons from the steering committee for a healthy start are Yasmin Welsh and Hien Sanchez. And for childcare for everyone, everywhere, implementation partners are 4 providers by providers, the Policy Institute, Agenda for Children in the Greater New Orleans area, and the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce. And our steering committee liaisons here are Antoinette Horde and Chastity Caesar. And for the family-friendly workplace, again, our implementation partners, we have the Amandala Group, along with the Louisiana Budget Project, the Public Health Institute again, and the Shreveport Chamber. And if we think about how we move things forward, particularly when we're talking about family-friendly workplaces, it's really important that we have an implementation partner that is in the business community like the Shreveport Chamber. And so we're really super appreciative that they have been able to work with us and think these things through, and that those steering committee liaisons that are helping us in this area are Dawn Collins and Con Nguyen. Next slide. And so we have been doing a lot of work. I mean, this is now our 2nd year. And last year we had some legislative wins. And that becomes important because, again, when you listen to the community and you start to develop a policy agenda so that people actually feel how policy impacts them on their day-to-day lives, having legislative wins within the first couple of years is a pretty big deal. And again, that's not just any one group, it's really all of our implementation partners and our steering committee to help lead that work. And so, you'll see where we were able to help garner $52 million in the state budget for early care and education, help support the city of Monroe to have a local tax to potentially have local dollars for early care and education. Partners were able to really help get doula maternity supports to support families, as well as thinking about how little people transition when they're going from the early intervention system into the school system, and then what the newborns and their health legislation around that as well. And so you'll see there's child advocacy pieces, as well as data systems improvements, extending pregnancy coverage, which was huge with Medicaid for postpartum care for mamas to make sure they're taken care of. And just to see this kind of growth within the first couple of years of the Go Far movement is just really exciting to see. Next slide. And so we've talked at you a lot So bear with us, but please, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We are going to show one more video kind of to bookend the work to see how you saw the very beginning video, which was literally like within our first year, our very first retreat. And then this video is really a recap of our last retreat and how we brought in the implementation partners. And I think it gives you a different flair for where we're at now from where we started.
I don't know if it's me, but I can't hear anything.
Movement. And so oftentimes people get confused that it's an organization, but it is a movement and a coalition of people. And so I think part of that evolution is we'll get more friends on them.
You cannot believe that this is the third time that we have been able to do this retreat.
So what we're here to do this weekend is to bring our implementation partners that are help leading different policy areas into the fold and to be into community with our families and providers that are part of our steering committee. We really worked hard to create a space in our steering committee that everybody does have a voice and that everybody is a leader, and there are opportunities to step up and step back. But at the end of the day, we are a unit together. So when you bring in implementation partners that are from different organizations that may have not been part of our group or may have, it's a different conversation. And if those implementation partner organizations have not been part of our community, they actually needed to be baptized in the community, because this is sacred. This is special, and you don't feel it until you're in community together in person.
When we look at our steering committee and our implementation partners, they come from a wealth of knowledge and different perspectives. So our providers are doulas, our providers are early learning center directors, and providers that are small business owners that advocate for thousands of children and families across the state of Louisiana.
Well, what we know is that no one organization can do this work, and no one human can do this work. And so it is really an amalgamation of an opportunity for parents, providers, and other people that are really expert in their policy area to come together to work together. And so the people that are part of our steering committee are experts at being a parent. They're also experts in their field that they work in. They're also experts in being community advocates and activists. They are the very people that need to lead the change. And they said yes to this 2 years ago and have stuck with us the whole way. And so if I think about the quality of people, we have the best of Louisiana reflected in our steering committee.
Geaux Far Louisiana.
That's who we are.
So are there any questions that, I don't see any questions in the chat box. So if you feel like you might want, I don't know if they can unmute themselves, but if you do have any questions that you have, we'll be happy to answer. If not, I'll give you a few minutes or a few seconds.
I do want to say, I think it's important that as we talk about Geaux Far, to really highlight all the partners that we do have that have been doing years and years of work in their areas. And that what Geaux Far has allowed us to do is to unify the work so that we can be in step together, so that we can make sure that young children and families have what they need and that we can amplify each other. And so I think that's been a really special piece of the work, is, to make more friends with different organizations, but fundamentally make more friends with people like y'all who are on here tonight and other families and providers that say, hey, look, I want to get involved too, and I want to see what I can do. And before we leave tonight, you can get your phone out and you can QR code and sign up to get updates about the different things that we're doing or we're trying to do, and make sure that we get input on. So you can definitely become a friend of Geaux Far. You can click on that QR code. It'll take you to the website. You can also, what it'll do is ask you some questions, whether maybe you're a parent or a practitioner working in a different field, just a concerned citizen that wants to be a part of the movement. We want you. We need everybody's voice to be present.
You get to pick, you get to choose where you fit in at Geaux Far. Everybody has a place. And if you don't see a place, you also get to say, hey, this is a place where I feel like there's a stakeholder spot that's missing. There's an opportunity for everybody's voice in this coalition. And that is where we see the most impact.
And then we are going to have a Geaux Far Day at the Capitol because fundamentally we want to make sure that legislators and elected officials remember who they represent. And that's you all. And so if you would like to join us and become a champion for children and join us for Geaux Far Day at the Capitol, we want to have you. We want to fill the rotunda and make a joyful noise and let them know that we want a better Louisiana for our little people. You know, the name of Geaux Far is not by accident. It's the proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, we go together. And so we know that we need to go far together for Louisiana's children. And one of the things Rochelle and I talk about often with the steering committee is in our lifetime, when somebody asks us how the children are doing, we want to say that they're doing well. And we think, and we know, not just think, we know that by building a community like Geaux Far, that is a true movement, that we can go far for Louisiana's children. And one day when somebody asks us how the children are doing, we can say they're doing well. The children are well.
And that starts with you.
Yep. There will be a follow-up email after tonight that'll go out probably tomorrow with this recording and with, materials with a link to sign up to be a friend of Geaux Far or sign up to be with us for Geaux Far Day at the Capitol. But we hope that you will stay engaged with us because, as Rochelle said, we need all of you. But also, like, if you don't see a role that we've listed, that means you need to elbow yourself in there and let us know what role you need to fill because we need you. But really stay engaged with us. We have worked really hard to get the messaging out there around Geaux Far, and we know that's going to take time, but that'll take time. It'll take less time with friends like you. And so follow us on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter, that's now called X, but we all know it's still Twitter. And we have our website as well. And so really stay engaged with us because we need your voice. And here's our contact information. But thank y'all for coming.
Again, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Geaux Far Louisiana. This is just the beginning.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Have an amazing night.